you were mentioning before, you've charged people under espionage. You've got experience in law enforcement.
Yes.
What do you think about? So there's a bunch of different charges, and there's New York, there's Florida, federal jurisdiction.
I can run through them real quick.
Yeah, tell me what you think.
So first, he got indicted out in New York for the falsifying business record stuff, right? Which that typically is a BS misdemeanor, but they're trying to get him on the felony version of it. Which whatever, Alvin Bragg has a hard on against Trump. I think he campaigned, if I'm not mistaken, as DA, saying I'm going to go after Trump, right? Then you got the classified documents case out of Mar-a-Lago, which the FBI, you guys know, they did the search warrant at the place, etc. He didn't return some records. They searched the place, found a bunch of documents, and they went ahead and charged him with that, right? And then now you got the DC stuff with the January 6th, which they're saying that he used his political power to try to stop the election and, et cetera. And then Georgia pretty much hit him with the same exact situation, but with Georgia statutes, and they did it under the Racketeering Act of Georgia, right? It's a state case. So he has 2 state cases, one in New York, one in Georgia, and then 2 federal ones, one out of the Southern District of Florida, and then another one out of the District of Columbia, out of DC. So that's the overall cases. But sorry, you had something, Tim?
No.
Yeah, but that's the general overall.
The general question of what do you think about the charges in your experience?
Okay,
you said they were trumped up.
Yeah,
like
the Georgia ones I think are. What concerns me is the classified documents case, and the reason why, because I actually did a case on this. I think it's 18 USC 793E. Someone could check that if they want on the law. If I'm right,
say it one more time.
18 USC 793E, I believe, is the statute. Which is going to
gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information.
Bam, there you go. So
that's what they're getting Trump on.
That's what they're going after him for, right? And that's one of the statutes. And that's those are the same charges that Robert Hansen, they famously went after him for, the corrupt FBI agent that sold secrets to the Russians back, about 20 years ago now. He actually just died in prison a couple months ago. But my thing is with the Espionage Act, it's fairly clear cut. Hey, this is national defense information or it's classified. You have it. You're not supposed to have it. And the thing that worries me is that the prosecution have him on recording saying, when he was doing an interview over a book or something like that, but they have him they have it in the discovery. Hey, when I was president, I could have declassified this. This is, secret stuff, blah, blah.
That doesn't prove the documents. That is not evidence he had classified documents.
Well, they have the witness saying that they saw the documents. They know what the documents are.
So a witness actually said that I didn't know that. I know that they claimed that they had the superseding indictment that got him on the Iran documents, and they said that he had classified documents.
Yeah,
but I don't think the audio proves that. The audio, who knows what he was talking about?
Well, what the audio proves,
if a witness says
what
yes.
The audio proves is this, because one of his biggest defenses was, and I just want to put this out there. I like Trump. I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm putting that out there. You can say that I'm biased towards Trump, but I have to acknowledge that, with these statutes, etc., that this is not good. That he had, because it's pretty clear cut. And the thing is that he said, "Oh, well, I could have declassified them. That's my authority as the president." He's correct, but he's admitting on the record that he did not declassify them, and he's acknowledging that they're national defense and/or classified information to a degree. So, and here's the other thing, too, with national defense information, NDI, it doesn't necessarily have to be classified to be constituted as NDI. It can be anything that's military, and you're not supposed to have that, right? Or certain people aren't supposed to have access to that. So that's what concerns me, because they found it there in Mar-a-Lago. And here's the other thing, too. They're going to argue, oh, well, we gave you the opportunity to give some of the documents back, which he actually did. He did give some of the documents back, and they didn't charge him for those documents. But the problem is that he lied to his lawyers, right? And he said, oh, yeah, no, we gave all the documents back, etc. And then his assistant, the guy that they indicted, Waltunoa is how it's pronounced, if I'm not mistaken. Him and another guy moved the boxes around, right? And then Trump's lawyers certified that they gave everything over to the FBI. Then here's what really scares me. I read through the indictment, and in the indictment, it says that they have lawyers' notes. Well, that's not good, because we know that lawyers, right, all the correspondence with their defendants is considered privilege. Law enforcement is not supposed to have that. Right. So, for example, when I was doing interviews, if a guy I was interviewing said, I want a lawyer, and the lawyer shows up and they talk, I have to leave the room. Right. And anything I hear can't be used. It's privilege, 100%. He could say, I did it. I can't use that, right? So the fact that the FBI put privileged information in the indictment tells me that those lawyers flipped. So those lawyers are not cooperating with the Bureau.
Doesn't matter.
How does it not matter?
It doesn't matter if they flip.
No, they're going to testify against Trump is my point.
I don't think they'll be allowed to.
No, they absolutely will. And I'll tell you why. The reason why is because the FBI probably told them, oh, you guys came here, certified this document, said you gave us all the boxes, right? And now it looks like they lied to them, and they're complicit in the crime.
Your lawyer cannot be compelled to testify against you. I'm pretty sure they cannot do that. I'm not saying they won't, because a lot of things they can't do, they're doing anyway. They're criminally charging lawyers. But I'll make two counterpoints.
Go ahead, please.
The first is, I'm not a lawyer, man. I could be totally wrong. I just Google search, can your lawyer testify against you? And the first thing that pops up is your attorney cannot be compelled to testify against you or disclose what you said during your conversations. So if they were to give privileged communications, it doesn't matter.
They did. It's in the indictment.
Right. And so that's gonna be a Supreme Court challenge that Trump's going to win on. The other thing I'll add is the law you cited, not saying that this in any way shuts down the case against Trump, because this is just something that you're familiar with. I don't know exactly what they're going for Trump with, but this one says Trump had to believe it would advantage or a foreign nation or injure the United States. I don't think you can prove that with what Trump did. If Trump sold information or flew on a trip to Russia with the information, he's in deep trouble. He's got boxes in his house. You're going to claim that Trump thought that would injure the United States? He's like, there's a news report about it in Politico, the documents he's talking about, and he wasn't providing any information or advantage to a foreign nation.
Well,
but again, if they're getting Trump on a different charge, this one just specifically says,
there's
believe
different
the information.
subsections of it. There's different subsections.
But they all say something to the effect of aforementioned. Right. So there are. You mentioned
there's a million subsections in that law. It's written very broadly for a reason. So, but what I'm saying is that's the general statute that they hit him with, right? It's 18 U.S.C. 793. There's different subsections.
Section E that you mentioned says, in which the information the possessor has reason to believe could be used to the injury of the United States or to the advantage of a foreign nation, willfully communicates, delivers, transmits, or causes to be communicated, delivered, transmitted, attempts to communicate, deliver, transmit, blah, blah, blah. Oh my, geez, these laws.
It's written very broadly, man.
Retains the same and fails to deliver to the officer or employer of the United States, entitled to receive it, blah, blah, blah. I think a component of this, I could be wrong, is he had to have believed that having those documents would cause harm to the United States.
Well, that's kind of implied by the level of classification of the documents. It's put in there. Everybody knows when you have a clearance, if certain documents were to get out, right, whether it's secret, top secret, confidential, whatever it is, they say, okay, this document, if got out, it would cause grave danger to the United States, or would cause severe danger to the United States. You know this when you get your clearance, when you have certain documents. It's put all the documents are labeled. So it's kind of implied when you have a clearance, when you're dealing with that type of document, that, hey, if this were to get out, it would be an issue. So they know it. And again, this is coming from a guy that likes Trump. But my concern is Jack Smith would not have indicted him on this if they were not 100% sure that they would be able to get him. And the thing that kills it is that his lawyers certified to the FBI, yo, we gave everything back. And then they went and did the search warrant, and then they found the documents there. So that puts the lawyers in a precarious situation where the FBI can now go to them and say, we're going to indict you guys too. Because how do we know that you guys weren't complicit in it? Oh, no, we're not complicit in it. We'll cooperate. And then they gave them memorialized notes, and it's in the indictment. So my thing is this. Whether they decide to testify or not is one thing, but they're absolutely cooperating. I know that. They would not put privileged information like that in the federal indictment if they were not cooperating. They have a bunch of witnesses. And then
Didn't he just change lawyers too? I thought I saw the other day that he just changed lawyers anyways.
Yeah.
We had this conversation the other day with Eric Hunley, and I said that I think they're going to, with Chase Burrow, who's being criminally charged, his trial is going to be October 23rd. I said, what are the chances he takes a deal or gets convicted for, Espionage Act, insurrection, RICO, blah, 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 whatever they're charging him with. And in that trial, he makes statements of fact and provides some kind of testimony, court-heard evidence that Trump instructed him to do it. The Democrats then file a civil charge under the 14th Amendment to remove Trump from the election because he's an insurrectionist. They say, we got a guy who's convicted who told the courts under oath these things, implicating Donald Trump in an act of insurrection. Now we use this evidence to have him removed from the ballot. He said, but they couldn't do that because Trump's not been convicted. And I'm like, I'm not talking about Trump being convicted of a crime. I'm saying a civil lawsuit under the 14th to have his name taken off the ballot. His argument was they can't do that. And my response is just, bro, there's a lot of things they can't do. They can't arrest someone's legal counsel, and they did. Like, Jenna Ellis is the biggest red flag because she's just like, she was just Trump's lawyer. She's not like, she's not going around knocking on doors demanding people change votes or anything like that. She's just Trump's lawyer, and they criminally charge her under RICO.
And that's why I'm saying the Georgia stuff I'm not too concerned with. I think if anything, it's gonna get watered down. Fani Willis is a clout chaser trying to move up in the political world.
I get that, but I'm saying they're all going to do whatever they can, legal or not. So everything you're saying about his lawyers, I'm saying, well, maybe they can't do that. They're gonna.
And that's why politically the left does so much better, right? Because they just ignore the rules all the time anyways.
They do.
The Republicans are, for the most part, like we always say, just Democrats going the speed limit, because the Democrats know that power is gained not by following the rules, but by breaking them. And they don't have a problem with that because most of the people have been poisoned by the media anyways. Like I have friends on both sides, like I said, I have people on both sides posting the mugshot, and the people who don't like him and are posting it, they can't even really articulate why or explain why these charges in particular are so egregious. They just know they don't like them. And so you take a general public that's been poisoned against someone by the media, and you take politicians and activist DAs who have no problem wielding political and legal power against someone, even if it's against the law, even if it doesn't follow the letter of the law, and you get to a place like this, and then somebody asks, how did our country get here? Well, that's how it got here.
Yeah. And like I said, the Georgia stuff, I'm not too worried about. The classified documents has me concerned, right, as a Trump supporter. So, because I know how that statute, it's very, I mean, you read it. It's extremely broadly written.
Jeez.
And it's designed to go after people for espionage. So they're going to do everything in their power to get you in every nook and cranny. And yeah, dude, and then the fact that the lawyers are probably going to cooperate. We know that they're going to try to flip the guy that tried to destroy the surveillance footage. They're going to try to flip his assistant, Natswa. They're going to, and it is what it is, man. I mean, the only way I see him beating this is my what I think is he would have to become president and pardon himself. But it's not explicitly written in the Constitution if a president can pardon himself. It just says he can pardon. Right. So for the federal charges. Now for the state stuff, I know me and you had a discussion on it. I didn't know this. Georgia's a little bit different. Can you tell us about that?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, we didn't fact check it, but I think Georgia has a panel. The governor has to confer with a panel for pardons.
Okay. Yeah, different states. I think Florida, the governor can just pardon you. But Georgia, might be with a panel. Every state's different.
What if another
state board of pardons and paroles?
There you go.
What if like DeSantis won? Could he pardon him too?
Yes, DeSantis said he would pardon Trump if he became president.
Yeah.
He would entertain it.
Yeah.
He would entertain it.
I will say something just totally totally irrelevant. It was funny that you said nook and cranny because I thought for a second, I'm like, what's a cranny? No one ever says that word unless they say nook and cranny.
Yeah.
And so I looked it up. Cranny is a very small, narrow space.
Oh.
It's kind of obvious.
So what the hell's a nook then?
Also a small.
So it's
and then it got me thinking about waffles.
Yeah. but I think...
Because, the commercial is like they're pouring the maple syrup and they're like covering every nook and cranny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I think the charges I'm most concerned with are the document charges because they're pretty cut and dry. He had them. They're at the house. They're classified or national defense information. They gave him a chance. They're going to argue. We gave him months. We had to open up a grand jury investigation to get these documents. We did a search warrant. We look at all of these ridiculous acts we had to take to get these documents back. That's what they're going to say. The January 6th stuff, I mean, Jack Smith just has a hard on for Trump at this point, to be honest with you. But the thing that worries me as well is that I know how the feds operate, right? And just for the audience to understand, the feds have the luxury of taking the cases they know that they can win and the cases that they want. Most U.S. attorneys' offices have a 90% plus success rate with their cases. Like the Southern District of New York, et cetera, these big districts, they don't lose because it's the DA's offices that typically lose because they take on disorderly conduct. They take all the dumb charges. But the feds take the big, sexy cases. So typically they don't indict until I remember when I used to go and present for grand jury, et cetera, because I would go in there and present. You don't indict unless you know you're going to win the trial. Yeah. You indict ready to go to trial at that point. I remember going to grand jury with all my stuff, and then we would hand the discovery over to the defense counsel, everything there. And they were like, oh, man, we're going to need some time to review this. And then sometimes the overwhelming amount of evidence makes them say, we're just going to plead.
Yeah. So then what happens if Trump is convicted?
Of which one? The document one?
Yeah. We'll start there because that's like, what's the penalty?
They're going to label him a spy is what they're going to, even though that's ridiculous and ludicrous, they're going to say, oh, he was convicted under the same charges that we go after spies with. Robert Hansen, Operation Shadows, which I know they caught those 10 Russians that were here spying for like a damn near a decade. Yeah. And then we caught them. What did we do? We traded them for, some other spies because that's what we do. So they're going to go ahead and try to label him as a spy, unfortunately, which is ridiculous.
And it's a lot of these charges, if if I'm not much mistaken, like these are the type of things that they would always give the benefit of the doubt to a past president for, because in the political system, if you were in the inside, you were given leeway
Yep.
and they weren't going to go after you. And that's the part that bums me out, is because you see a lot of people who feel like they're getting this guy and that he's always been this evil figure, not realizing that he's doing the same stuff that Obama did, the same stuff that Bush did, the same stuff that Bush Sr. did, that Clinton did. All these things are not new to the system. It's just that this dude needs to be taken down because he pushed from outside the establishment.
I want to say this too as well. If you look, right, anyone that applies, anyone that's watching that has a clearance that worked for the government, you guys know some of the questions they ask you. Have you ever tried to overthrow the United States government? Have you ever, collected information for a foreign government, etc.? The two charges they're getting him for on the federal side are what? One is an espionage side, that they could label him a spy, and the other one is overthrowing the U.S. government. What do both these charges have? They disqualify you from government service, or they label you as unfit for government service, and that's what they're trying to do.
But if Donald Trump in any way is removed from this election, bedlam.
Yeah,
I just absolute chaos.
it's going to be chaos. Yeah, they better not remove him. I think for this, they shouldn't remove him.
If Trump gets removed from even a single state, I think social order in this country ceases to exist.
Yeah, it'll be a problem.
But people need to understand this. I do mention this a lot, but in the context, I'm in Egypt during the revolution. You could still go to McDonald's and order a cheeseburger. You could still go and buy goods at the mall. You can still buy a cell phone. Social order breaking down and the government collapsing doesn't change the fact that people are still living and trading and working and businesses are running. So by social order breakdown, I just mean, like I said, you're going to get, the other day, you're going to get people in small towns who will just look at a guy with a federal badge like a guy in a clown costume. Like, no different. A guy with a clown suit walks up to you and says, "Hey, don't move," and holds a rubber nose in front of you. Freeze! You're like, what is this? What does that rubber nose mean to me? Get out of here, clown. There's going to be people in small towns who are going to see a Fed hold a federal badge and be like, you might as well hold up a clown nose. That didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sucks because, you go from, like let's look at the FBI. You go from an agency that, was responsible for putting away people like La Cosa Nostra, investigating some of the most egregious crimes against the United States. And, now their image is tarnished, right? All the good that they've done, right? They've done a lot of bad too, but they don't care because, they're being weaponized, right? To go after a U.S. president.
They're in on it. Now, I'm not saying every single FBI agent, because I've spoken. So this is the thing, like, a lot of people are like, abolish the intel agencies. I don't completely disagree. Splinter the CIA, scatter into the wind, all that stuff. We all know those statements. Vivek wants to abolish the FBI. What he really means is transfer them to various different agencies, decentralize.
He'll never be able to do that, unfortunately. And I like Vivek too.
I've met guys who work in intel, and I ask them, "Yo, what's going on?" And they say, everything you see outside is exactly what's happening inside. You ever wonder why it is that, like, man, what example could I think off the top of my head? People won't speak up about some issue. They'll say, "Oh, like, leave me out of it. I'm scared." The average person, trans women in female sports. Like, obviously, if you ask the average person, the polls show most people do not want this.
Yeah.
Ask them publicly with a camera in front of their face, and they shut their mouth and they say nothing.
Yep.
So that's what I'm told by some of these intel guys. They're like, a lot of people here voted for Trump. A lot of people don't like what's going on, but they're scared if they speak up, they're going to get fired, they're going to get shunned, they're going to get ostracized, they're going to get targeted, so they just keep their mouths shut.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you from my experience, when I was on a job, a lot of us were supported Trump. Trump was pro law enforcement. You know what I mean? When he was in. Yeah. So the law enforcement community loved him. It's the guys at the higher up. Because here's the thing, too, I want people to understand. You got a special agent, right? That guy is a GS-13, right? Whatever. He's doing his cases. He's doing what he's got to do. It's the management, the 14s, the 15s, the SACs, the directors, etc. Those are the guys that are making the political moves, etc., trying to move on up. The guys on the ground that are doing the cases, a lot of the times, man, they just want to do their cases, be done, go after the bad guys. It is what it is. But it's the brass that are doing this crap where a lot of times it's politically motivated. But yeah, a lot of guys, a lot of law enforcement guys, especially at the lower levels, right? They're pro-Trump. They're pro because those guys are pro law enforcement.
But here's what they do. Some higher up guy who's political finds people he can trust to agree with him and then says, they're putting me in charge of insert bureau in office. I want you to come work with me. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. So then you end up with a particular office where the guy running it is politically charged. He brought a bunch of his buddies who are all super political. And now you have this one particular office where everybody is taking partisan action. So these agents that are investigating and going after Trump, they like that they're doing it. They're not upset that they're doing it.
Well, it's DC agents. And I'll clarify that too. So DC is super woke. We all know this, right? It was actually the DC office that ran that investigation. And when they came down, they did the search warrants, they did everything. And, obviously the Miami field office is going to help and everything else like that, but it's the DC office that's running it. So, it is what it is, man. It's just a sad time in America.
Go ahead.
You made a very good point earlier about how other presidents in the past did the same thing that he basically did, but they got nothing for it. And it's scary because if you look at it from a holistic standpoint, Trump is basically advocate for like the opposite of what's currently in political space. However, challenging anything that's currently like set in stone here for the political landscape is demonized. And it means that any other president that tries to, I want to say, do the opposite is going to be shunned too. So it's kind of scary, bro. And
you look at, there's lots of pictures of Bush with Obama. They're all friends, right? It's now about establishment versus populists and people who support populism.
Did you see his interview with Tucker?
Yeah.
He said in there that basically everything started to roll once he got rid of Comey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he said in the interview with Tucker, he like basically they kind of started, the pitchfork started to come out once he got rid of Comey.
And how you described what was going on, whether we're talking somebody high up in the government who then hires people that he knows are loyal to him. That's why I take a lot of issue with the idea of drain the swamp. They're like, get rid of the heads of this agency, get rid of the heads of this agency. Like all of these people mentored people who, even if they're not necessarily 100% in line with them as far as their political views, they feel a sense of loyalty to that person, or at least the person who's in charge is politically savvy enough to hire people that he knows think the same as him, right? Because he's training them to, if not succeed him, to work under him to help him achieve whatever he wants to accomplish, right? It's not so easy as to just fire a bunch of people because somebody else is going to take that job, and you run the risk that person is going to be every bit as bad as the guy you fired.
Yeah. Once you're at the what we call the special agent in charge level, which some agencies call a SAC or SAIC or etc., it starts to get political, and that's the guy that's the head of the field office, right, of a certain geographic area, and they're overseeing sometimes hundreds of agents. So at that point it starts to become political, and they're really just kind of the puppets of the higher ups over out of the Washington D.C. office.
It says here on uscodehouse.gov, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. Not more than 10 years. What are the chances he gets convicted? And they just say, all right, you were found guilty. Time served. Time served. I was in the jail.
Of which charge specifically?
The espionage.
Oh, the espionage one? The chance of him
They just say, no fine. Time served. Have a nice day. Disqualified.
Yeah.
They don't need to put him in jail. That's the thing. Like, the fear is that Trump gets put into jail, which causes bedlam. Everyone's like, screaming. But they could just be like, don't worry, we're not going to lock you up. We don't think you're a threat beyond this because you're not president, and your penalty is that you can't run for office anymore.
I mean, isn't that even worse, though? Then it looks to the people that I know that just dislike him and don't understand how politically motivated this is. That screams politically motivated to just say, no time. They'll have to throw him in jail to make it seem like there was actually a crime for them to punish him for. If they just let him go, then it absolutely looks like a banana.
I think the strategy is this, and I think I'd said this on the onset when he first got indicted. And I think his legal team is trying to do this. Delay, man. He's got to make it to 2024, win the election, pardon himself from the federal charges, and hopefully, the state of Georgia we can figure something out with that. But and then the New York stuff, I'm not even worried about. That's a BS charge.
The Georgia stuff is where the chaos ensues, because if they do convict him, and he gets sentenced to jail, and then he wins the presidency, what happens when
they're not going to trial though on that for years, dude? The state of Georgia is so backed up. These state courts are so backlogged.
Kenneth Chesebro is going October 23rd.
For the RICO charges?
That's right. October 23rd.
Of next year?
No. October 23rd this year.
Impossible.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.